So they say rejection is protection. Well, I say except for the exception when it comes from somebody who's wounded out of their own projection. Bear with me on this one, because I'm a person who's a resilient to these things now. Being the kind of person who's rejected my whole life, my core wound was abandonment, and it's something I really worked hard on, especially the past few years, to say the least, about understanding this and how to process it. And I've come to terms and come to learn, more importantly, that 90% of the world experience this, apart from maybe 10% who are just psychopaths, experience this wound, at least at some point in their life, especially maybe on different tiers, on levels of scales to how it's affected that individual. But though abandonment and rejection has affected the majority of the world via a self-limiting belief being placed on us from somebody else's own insecurities after potentially being rejected in some avenue, or being abandoned from something in their lifetime, which is kind of held on for quite some time, to end up becoming a part of one's character and also a way of one's way of thinking, in terms of the way they've built up their own mindset and structure of thinking based on what kind of things they've had to work through, meaning what challenges they've experienced in their lives, to the lessons they learn, to the way their brains are wired to think and experience themselves, so the way they feel and the way they experience others, and also the belief systems they have about themselves and the way they see others in general too. This is quite complex when you think about it, but quite easy to understand when you understand it this way. So for me, myself, after experiencing rejection and abandonment time and time again, especially in the most important parts of my lifetime, in the most challenging times when I've needed others and I've not always asked for it, after many times I've been rejected, even though there was a period of time I see it as I was being protected, like when the Most High was protecting me from these people, but I see it now as the protection was in general for me to understand that I've got to learn from this. And what I learned is that when I've been rejected, it rewired my way of thinking to experience it a lot easier as I go on, as I progress. Call it muscle memory if you like. So the normalization of understanding that rejection will happen regardless, but you still got to continue to go. And it was at my lowest points in life when I'll namely one about 3 years ago, I was left for dead by everyone around me. I was in such a low position via all my past experiences was being dragged up for me, and I was being made to relive all these experiences by the people that I had around me, family members. I'm not saying that they was the perpetrators for me feeling like that, though the patterns of behaviour and the circumstances that I was in had left me in a mind frame, and my position and my take on the way I saw the world in itself, and the kind of way I was experiencing others around me, and the way I was rejected in a ways of not being accepted for who I was internally as a person, as I would be speaking now, and only being seen for the way they'd see me in the position I was in, from like a standpoint of I was at a low point in life, and they may have put themselves in a hierarchy order above me and saw me as less than, and they put that onto me, that way of thinking around me, by their behaviours and sometimes and with their words and actions towards me. left me in a position to understand where rejection can be protection from God, but it's in a ways of the protection is in protecting you with the knowledge that you need. And the protection is his shield and your understanding of why you experience these things. Now this wires our brain to help us think and feel a little bit differently in circumstances. So when you think about rejection now, like when I do personally, I do still have a culmination of different feelings within me, though I experience those feelings differently because I've experienced rejection so often, and it's put me in a position where I'm thinking. Now, I understand now that when I reject patterns of behaviour in others, I do understand that this will affect other people as it does myself. So when rejection is seen as protection is a good thing, except for the exception when it's being forced on you as a position to be less than another. Now, this is an important thing for people to know. Being rejected is okay in circumstances when you're going towards things and it may not be for somebody, but when you're in circumstances and dynamics with anybody in general in life, and it could be in a chaotic circumstance or it can be in a calm circumstance, regardless of your position in life, if anybody places themselves above you because you're in a position where you're working through something or you're not quite there, or they aren't quite there, and there's nothing clear about the circumstance and there's blurred lines, then that is not okay, and that's a projection from somebody else's insecure selves and their own inner worlds. So it's important to note that that isn't protection for you. That's more than likely protection for the other person, because they've got to learn from something after you take yourself away from the situation. So rejection can be great for you accepting rejection, and good for another person to experience that not everyone they reject is going to be reactive, and you understand that you can take that and use it to your benefit to say, I'll work on these parts of myself to make me put myself in a better belief system about myself, and also be a better version, so that will show anybody else that's rejecting you for no other reason apart from them putting themselves above you or putting you in a position as in hierarchy order, that not everybody in life will be staying down, and that's something for them to learn, because 9 times out of 10 others will feel a little bit bad and shameful about that, insecure about the way they've treated others, and it'll put them in a position to learn about why they do these patterns of behaviour eventually. And when people do that, it's important to learn that forgiveness is key. Forgiving but we never forget things. And that after forgiveness comes to the point where you understand that it doesn't matter about forgiving, it just means learning. So rejection is protection, except for the exception when it comes from a projection of anybody that's insecure about themselves or places themselves above you. You should be a great believer in this, that you should always treat people as equal. So when you meet them, you give people a level of respect, and they get the same level when you leave them, depending on how you leave that person or people, circumstance, whatever that case may be. So the man who changes the bins next to the bus stop and keeps that seat clean when it's raining, you need to sit down, or the old girls need to sit down waiting for the bus to come around that they can hop on and get their shopping done. That man who does that, pay that man a bit of respect, because he may have insights and he does a job that's important. If that bus stop wasn't clean and that bin wasn't emptied, it'd be overflowing, you'd complain, your taxes would rise, and there'd be a dirty bus stop, and the old girls wouldn't want to get on a bus and go and do shopping, and they'd be, in positions at home And also the man may have a lot of insight that he could teach you a lot more with his experience of life and what he sees, and his humbleness and willing to do a job like that in the first place, that he could showcase some things that he's learned along the way. And those kind of men you treat with the same respect as the person who would change up 10 bags in cash and in the bank and put it in 2 accounts for you. And also he's the one who will introduce you in a network sense to the CEO, who put you in a position to move through a network in circles and circumstances. Just remember that nobody stays low. There's no hierarchy in the sense of an internal world and what you can learn from others, until the exception of when you see somebody in a state of projection. Then you take the rejection as your own protection for yourself and to protect the other person from hurting you even further, by them learning that not everybody that they reject is gonna stay down. Sounds a bit confusing, all over the place, but make sure you respect each other, and don't just reject others for no reason. Be kind, show compassion. I'm not saying be melty and be naive. There's a difference between being kind and compassionate and being naive and stupid. You can have a childlike wonder in a whimsical way, and that is okay. But some people do fuck around, and they need to find out sometimes, even though we don't like to get to that point, though we have to understand that sometimes people project, and rejection is futile, so don't take it on board too tough. And it's something I've learned quite a lot, and the reason I speak on it is because it's happened again for me recently, and I know this happens for others frequently. Yeah, be mindful of how you treat others, and also don't allow another self-limiting belief to put you in a position where you feel rejected and stay down, because it's not all the case. Not everybody's for you, not everybody will be for you, and it's totally okay to be rejected, because there's always somebody in front that will be worthy to be protected by your love and your kindness and your compassion. Yeah, so don't take it as anything else. Little note for you there. And this is Craig's Corner. If you haven't already, give me a like, a little comment, and share and subscribe and all that good stuff. I hope that wasn't too enjangled for you. Though the topics I speak on often happen in my life or have happened in my life. I also share some poetry on here, and I share stories about insights on the way of the world, the way from I see it from my perspective, from my own lens, or from a person of experience who's done quite a lot of work on that sense of myself. My internal world is my key goal, and my key factor in helping other people is by doing this. And this is the place to come and be and come and see me, Mr. Craig BC. All right, and thanks for being here. If you have this long, consider subscribing and share to people that might be liking, you know. Yeah, I'm a poet and I already know it. And the links are in the bio to my books if you're interested, by the way. Or on Amazon, links are in there. Go onto my channel, you'll see it in the bio, okay? And thanks for being here, peeps.